Thanks for having another look. This is bartok v0.1, and this is the current state. As you'll see, comparing with the previous video, things have changed. I've moved more towards a Visual Studio Code look, and I'm just going to review some of those changes. Most of this update is UI changes. We have a new pane view, which pretty much gives you the expected ability to move the panes that you see. We have the editor pane, we have the explorer pane, and a little action bar pane over here, and then we have the new terminal. That's awesome. So new pane view. All right, and you can see there are actually still some bugs, so we'll talk more about that. So the explorer right now is basically mocked. None of these files actually exist, and this is basically just in prep for doing later steps. I've not actually connected these in with the editor. Over to the editor, you'll see this tab up the top. The index is mocked. The tabs are mocked. I've not actually built that out, and I'm not terribly interested in going too far with that right now. And then I also mentioned that the view, as you see over here, is a server and client view, basically like a client being UI services. I'm not terribly interested in building out UI right now, or being able to do UI. What I really like to do is make this do routes and services and connect those together. All right, so over to the editor. Basically, as I mentioned before, the tabs are mocked. Pretty much is everything the same as before. I've just given it more real estate, and totally from the UI point of view, I've like ruined the light mode. Sort of just in a kind of a choppy state all over the place for UI, but you know, it's getting the job done so far. So the terminal is the new thing, and pretty awesome. You can do cool stuff with it, like type update, and you'll see that if you looked at the network, you would see that this actually updates. You can also do this thing called persist, and that'll persist everything. I'm going to go a little bit into what that means here in a little bit. But I'm going to mention real quick, xterm.js is pretty great. It's being used all over the place, and because of that, I expected that I could just pop it in, everything would work just fine. No, I had to build out basically what I would consider the command line, and then I wasted a little time doing message of the day kind of stuff. That was fun, and I stopped messing with that after a little while. But yeah, cool. So I have a message of the day in there, and I can run the commands that I had mocked in the UI earlier. I can run those by actually using the terminal, and that's pretty cool because it means that I can build out the server a lot more and rapidly develop it without having to actually build too much in the UI, because I can just make a keyword over here and it'll do the thing that I ask it to do without having to like fully code some UI for that. So the terminal is good in that sense, and it's up and running to a certain point. But I do not have full parity with a regular terminal, or a terminal like you would expect. For one, I can't press up and use previous commands, and then the arrow keys are basically just arrow keys. There's some weird issues right now, but in general, like, it lets me move quicker on the server. So we'll go to the server. Not much changed. A lot of ideas still going around over there. The next push I do will probably be mainly a server. Still kind of like kicking around a bunch of ideas over there. For one, let me mention, I used to think that PM2 was kind of sucky, or just sort of like Forever or Watch. It did really well for local development, but it wasn't something I would build infrastructure out with. I've been critical of people who've built their infrastructure out with it. I'm still critical of them, but I think it's mainly just because I see how they're using the PM2 module. I did some research into it recently and realized that a ton of the stuff that I want to do can actually be done by PM2 better, and I'm going to go forward with that. Still inspired by Kubernetes. I'd like to take part of what I see as Bartok, the server, and split it into the API server, same way that Kubernetes does it, and also a worker services. So maybe in the next few iterations, I should be showing something like I have a Bartok worker over on another server, and it's doing the cool things with PM2, like scaling up instances and giving me back information about those instances. Anyways, long and short, I'll probably commit to using PM2 as a module going forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about persisting versus updating. This is the last item here. The persistence is, as you would think, like it actually saves it somewhere. And updating basically just updates the current instance. So Bartok, the server that's running, will actually spawn this particular server. This file here will spawn that in a new node process. However, if I restart Bartok, all of that will be gone again. Anyways, that's pretty much it, and that's Bartok v0.1. Thanks for taking your time.